Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Asia PropTech Beyond 2022 conference. And with me today, I'm Paul Chen from Asia PropTech, co-founder from Asia PropTech. And with me today are Charlie Ko, founder and CEO of Urbanmetry. And we also have Francois Chabaudie, the co-founder of Neoma. Did I say that? Did I say your name correctly, Francois?
Very well, Paul.
Okay, great. So today we have the super exciting topic of AI for real estate. Now, a lot of you have heard about AI over the past few years, and it's really made inroads into the real estate industry. But a lot of times when we're really reading stuff, it's really about just the headlines. So today I wanted to bring you two really awesome companies to share their experiences and to answer some tough questions that I have. And hopefully our audiences today can learn something about AI for real estate. Okay, so the way that we're going to do the rundown is that that Charlie and Francois, they're going to share a little bit about their products and services, and then we'll go into a Q&A. Okay, so who wants to go first? Is it ladies first? Is it Francois first? How do you guys want to do it?
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Thanks, Francois. Okay. Hi, everybody. Let me just share screen very quickly.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, so Charlie was a part of the Asia PropTech conference last year, and I think you placed in the pitch competition, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
so
right.
that was great for me.
Yeah.
We've moved on a little bit since then, but thanks to the exposure from Asia PropTech and all your efforts, actually, Paul. Thank you again.
Right. And then you also I think you raised some money as well. You're doing some really awesome stuff. So waiting to hear about this.
Great. So thanks everybody. So I'm Charlie. I run Urbanmetry. I'm de facto pirate ship captain at this point. So we are a data company, a property data company based here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. We now have an office in Singapore, looking to go regional. And basically, the title says it's all we are based on decoding cities with big data and AI. So let me share a little bit about what we do. So Urbanmetry is a data company. And if you look around the world, there are many data companies focused on city and property data. So we're not the only one. There are many companies in the UK, US, that looks into this city data problem. But we are slightly different from developed country companies, primarily because in those countries, you have access to open source and clean public data, and private data providers that gives you also relatively structured data for the companies to develop data analytics, machine learning, AI, and come up with products such as ABM, algos, and all kinds of city analytics, right? So whenever these companies try to enter emerging market or Asian market, it is very difficult. I mean, Hong Kong itself is very clean. It's quite easy to get clean data. But once you go into developing countries where real significant growth in housing is happening, like Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, this data is not accessible, right? And it is extremely fragmented, very unstructured, both in the private data side and also in the public data side. So when I came back to Malaysia, I was in the US before, it was extremely frustrating because I couldn't do any analysis. And for a data-driven person, that drove me mad a little bit. So what I did was I founded the company in order to assemble the data, at first for my own use, and eventually it became a company. And currently, Urbanmetry now owns proprietary central databases, both in Malaysia and in Vietnam, and also in Japan. And we have successfully built sophisticated AVMs, auto valuation machines that is bankable. We are one of the first bankable AVMs in the region. We also have city analytics that we do. So in this process, we basically use AI, primarily in the cleaning of the data. So to give you an example, what we have successfully done for some of the telcos in the region, is to assess whether some homes have internet access. So you see the pink, the orange dots you can see here. These are homes. They're identified using AI, and I'll show you what we do using computer vision. Basically, in order to identify the houses that are not don't have access to internet data, like by mobile data, for example, because there is interference from a hill nearby, for example. So all this is via desktop, our database. And we also suggest public facilities that they could actually put in extra telco towers in order to provide access to these houses here. How do we do that? So some of the AI that we have built, including this computer vision, that basically dices satellite images into small little squares. And we use a sufficient number of data in order to train the bot to count the houses that is in rural areas, specifically for rural houses in the Southeast Asia region that varies quite a little bit depending when you're in Vietnam or in Indonesia or in Malaysia. So this is just some of the example. I don't want to take up everybody's too much time, but some of the examples how we use AI in our business. Over to you, Francois, I think. Your turn.
Oh, that's really cool stuff.
Thank you very much, Ali. It's very interesting. Going to share real quick. So I'm the CEO of the company Neoma. Neoma is specialized in using AI for better experiences, in particular seamless and personalized experiences in a wide range of properties. So Neoma has offices in Hong Kong, India, and Singapore. The problem we're solving is to help end users access physical spaces in a seamless way, in a personalized way, and in a stress-free manner. The reason why we wanted to use AI to build great experiences is from a personal experience that I had in actually a hotel, where there were a lack of consistency between the experience that I had in my TV digital screen in my room and the experience that I had from human staff downstairs, where the level of information the TV had about me and the level of information that staff had about me was totally opposite. And we were thinking, how can we utilize AI to basically leverage the experience that physical spaces can offer to people to make sure that it's consistent, it's seamless, and can build a real journey overall. So as of today, we have created around 350,000 customer journeys across millions of square feet. We usually aggregate different types of touch points that already exist within the properties, and we can also install additional touch points. We have worked with around 40 locations in a little bit less than 10 countries and got different awards from ICT, Peninsula, Accor, and MIPIM. We are focusing on elevating the customer experience with AI. So what are the key attributes for the customer experience? You have to engage with your customers, hear your customers, empower them, delight them, and know them. But as a matter of fact, all of these attributes are limited by the ability for human staff to access data real time and create actual insights from it. So there is a limitation in accessing the data and act on behalf of it. And this is where we step in. So what we have built is a product called Gaia. It's a platform that has a connector able to be connected to a wide range of touch points inside physical spaces, from FR cameras to mobile applications to wearables and key cards. All of that is connected to the platform that can analyze and predict anonymous behavior within the property, and then staff in the property can know who are the nearby customers and how they should greet them and serve them better. We're basically focused on how can we help our property clients recognize their guests, be more aware about how people are going to use the properties, and how they can deliver a consistent journey through the staff and their mobile application. So this is just an example of the type of insights that our Gaia staff app is generating for staff, leveraging existing data from our clients and predicting occupancy through our facilities. And in terms of journey, we can basically aggregate all the data across the property or even the portfolio to have clear ideas how they could serve their guests better, market their products better, and maybe reorganize the space better. That's basically it. Back to you, Paul.
But could you give me an example of how, in one way, how you improve the customer journey?
Sure. One easy one is for hotels. We've been working with a luxury hotel chain that just one type of the data is the salutation. They have 17 different ways to greet somebody, from a simple Mr. and Madam to King. You can greet them in a 17 different ways. So you may have the smartest people on earth with the best training. It's actually impossible to greet everybody, with the right salutation type. And the same way, it's impossible to know by heart who they are, what's their VIP status, what have they done in the past, what are their preferences, allergies. So that hotel is sitting on a lot of existing customer data that their staff cannot use in real time to serve their guests in a better way. So what we did with them is to give them the Gaia staff application to make sure that the app can take care of the data part, to free up staff, to let them focus on the actual human experience with their customers.
So that leads me then to Charlie. In the beginning, I was expecting you to say, hey, we're like a super awesome AI company, but you said, we are a data company.
Yeah, so we use AI in our data collection. So there's a lot of AI usage to build the company, but then essentially we are a data company. A lot of the analysis is done sometimes using AI. So we have products that's AI based, but essentially AI is one of the tools that we use. It is not like we are AI for service, or we don't build AI for service
Right.
kind of company. Yeah, so we are a data company. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm really curious because we come across a lot of companies that say, hey, we have like a super powerful AI algorithm. And then I ask, well, how much data do you have, right? And they go, we're kind of getting the data. So I'm really curious. I mean, I get different answers. Like sometimes they say, well, as long as we have like 10,000 data points, and another person says, as long as we have like 1 million data points. So, I mean, for our audience out there, the layperson, like how much data do you need, and how do you see from the real stuff from like the BS? Like how much data do you really need to like have good AI?
So Francois, you want to go first, or I can burst the bubble? So basically, okay, building an AI is really, really tough. And our experience is such that it is not the quantity, right? It's definitely not the quantity. It is the quality. So there's a couple of stages into getting a very good AI on board. Basically, depending on which stage you're in. If the person is actually going for, if they're building a product, an end product for a customer, they definitely need very, very good quality data, because rubbish in, rubbish out, right? But for us, for example, we are using an AI to actually clean the data, right? So, or harvest data. So when we look at that, we still need very clean data, or selected amount of it, but we also need the quantity in order to make sure that we are able to ascertain the level of dirtiness and being able to shift all kinds of funkiness in the data, right? So we need to have a lot of bad data because we need to discern the ones that are good and the ones that are bad and how to make it better, right? So it depends on your problem statement. Then the quantity shifts depending on what your problem statement is. But when you are going towards the tail end of the product, for example, I'm just sharing, if I'm building an AVM, which is our auto valuation machine, your input has to be extremely clean, because at that point, you're at the end of the funnel. It's almost like the last stage of your water filter. It needs to be clean. Otherwise, you poison the person, right? So you can't afford to be very dirty at the end. But in the beginning, then you can have a lot of it that is dirty.
Francois, I mean, from your presentation, it looked like you draw a lot of data from IoT devices, and you have millions and millions of data points. Tell us a little bit, like, how much data do you really need? Because like you're connecting a lot of different things for that user experience, right?
So the good thing about what we do is that the data actually most of the time is already clean, because it's data within a property management system or a CRM, which is already cleaned by our clients. So we just basically call the right data for staff to see and know how they should better serve their clients. So this data most of the time doesn't need to be worked on. The data that is that we need to accumulate, and I would complement maybe Shali's point on that, where of course it has to be a qualitative data, but if you're able to see a trend, a pattern of how people, in our case, use a physical space, you need to accumulate data. We had some cases where if our clients doesn't use our AI across different touch points for a certain period of time, we're not able to see any pattern because we just don't have enough data. If you use it a little bit longer, so in our case, on average is around 8 weeks, could be more, could be less, depending on how much data we have, how many data points we have. But if it's less than that, you have a lot of data, you can do a lot of analysis, but you don't have a clear pattern that are kind of solid to predict what can happen in the future.
Hey, Charlie, what is like the absolute, like the coolest use case that you've done with your product? Like you're really, really proud of, like, bring out the nerd in you. Okay. What's really, really cool?
Okay, so I'll take up, I mean, we've done quite cool things over the years, but I mean, one of our proudest thing is the AVM, but more recently, what we have done because of the craze of the EV cars. So we've helped actually energy companies place or predict where people will need to charge their cars with the city data, where people move and etc. So we're quite excited about that because there's this whole new movement of EV cars. And the problem with EV cars is that there's not enough adoption. So you can't just say, oh, this is where all the EV car owners go, because they don't own the car yet, right? So, but then it's like a chicken and egg. If I don't have the charging stations, then I can't encourage people to buy the cars. So the energy companies are going like, okay, let me put in EV charging stations. Can you predict where they will need this charging station? So that's what we did, using our data and predicting where they will go. So it's really cool for us. Yeah.
And so how do you monitor the cars? I mean, because you have to know where the cars are going, and you use satellite. Like how do you collect this data?
No, so again, it is prediction. The problem statement is that there's only, I think, like 400 EV cars currently here in Malaysia. So they are expecting it to grow to thousands, right? But then you can't grow to 1,000 without the charging stations. So, but we can't put it everywhere. So what we did was we looked at the 400 and ascertained like the class and correlated that to like certain income groups and certain demographics that's the first adopters of EV cars, and then looked at where they travel, like where their movements, right? And then that is the prediction of where they will be. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. All right. And Francois, you mentioned that you were in like several different regions. Like, how many regions are you operating in right now, or is it mostly Hong Kong right now?
It's mostly Hong Kong and Southeast Asia at the moment. We're going to we have clients in Europe. We're going to have clients in the Middle East, but it's mainly in Asia at the moment. We have around 30 people across our offices, and Singapore is the latest opening. We opened it recently.
And how big is your team right now?
We're 30.
Oh, 30. Oh, wow.
I
Okay,
know.
30.
Yeah.
And you're in Malaysia, Vietnam. You mentioned Japan as well?
So our database, we have a database in Japan, but our team is generally in Hanoi and in Kuala Lumpur. We might have more staff in Singapore going forward,
Okay.
but generally mostly in Hanoi and Kuala Lumpur.
Do you think that the real estate industry is embracing AI? Like, what is their level of sophistication versus other industries, if you have a perspective on that?
Francois, you want to take it first or me?
Sure, I can take it first. I think the industry had initiated a good move towards the AI trend. I think now they understand the value AI can bring in terms of autonomy and patterns. I think there are some limits to that, but I would reverse the question. When can we define when a company has well adopted AI? Certainly, if as an end user, I'm talking to a chatbot that is asking me to contact staff or marketing after 3 questions, this may not be a good use of AI. Or, if I'm spending 10 minutes to talk to a chatbot and then I have to repeat from scratch everything to another channel, it's not also a great use of AI. I think that the limitation is towards the integration of an AI system to another one, for the customer not to face one AI point within the organization and then 0 on the other one. So I think the industry have a good move towards some AI systems for support, customer support, but it's not enough. I think the next step is for them to integrate that towards departments to make sure that it's a consistent experience for the end customer.
Okay, for the companies that you work with, Francois, do you feel like they have like a pretty good overall strategy for how they want to utilize AI, or is it mostly experimental right now? Because you work with a lot of hospitality companies, right?
So like I said, most of our real estate clients, they really understand what AI can bring them. And I think something new over the past, I would say 2 years, they understand there is a mutual learning between management and AI. It's not only, okay, I'm going to buy an AI product to have like autonomy, or I'm going to see some patterns that I can't see with my data analysts. It's more, what can we learn from AI and what can we input back into the system for the AI to keep learning? So it's a mutual learning, and I think companies really understand that now. The vision towards AI is good, but I would say don't implement AI for the sake of AI. Implement AI if you really have a business problem that you cannot solve manually or with your existing task force.
There is a warming up towards the word AI and the concept of it. I think the full understanding of what that means hasn't really sunk in. So a lot of them have those headlines that they see, Google sentient, and they think it's like this robot that talks back to them. But really, you have to simplify it to simple tasks, right? I mean, at the beginning, because the management and the board of directors of these real estate companies, they can't really conceptualize like having a single machine that does a lot of the thinking, right? So that's hard for them. So if you put that aside, really it is to get them to be comfortable to do the simple tasks, like you're talking about the chatbots, etc., right? Things that are like more customer service. That's like the entry level AI that they are exploring. They are warming up to the idea. But even then, if you think about real estate sales or real estate management and customer service, it is a very high touch, very emotion-driven process, right? So not a lot of people have had good successes because it is a very, very big challenge to do sales, I think. But somehow that's their immediate entry point in using AI. I am sort of telling them that is not the best way to have quick successes in AI in the beginning, and they haven't really got around to basically choose the problem statements that are able to be solved at this point without getting disappointed, I think.
Can you explain what proprietary data is and how that's derived? Maybe Charlie, you can explain what that is.
Yeah, so proprietary data, for us, we do have them as well. So there's a couple of things that happens. One is, for example, we mine and clean and harvest over 30 over sets of data, right? So that's like stuff that you can get off raw. So think of it as you go into the river, you're just taking a bucket and scooping up the water, right? But it's polluted. There's bacteria in it, and there's all this, sediments, etc., right? So we build a machine to clean it up. So we clean it up, we drawing the tables, we combine different water sources, and we have a source of information that can only be produced if you combine the information or you clean the information. So that becomes proprietary to us because we went through that process, right? So it is a bit like Malaysia selling water to Singapore. The raw water is worth 4 cents, but Singapore sells it back to us for $1, right? Because there is a process that you have done towards it. So in our definition, that's proprietary data, right? Because I've done something to it. But there are other people who also harvest raw data from things like satellite images. I know a company that we partner with that basically detects with the raw satellite images, detect, for example, flood incidents and how far is the flood incidents and how deep is the flood incidents. So that becomes proprietary because there's a cognitive process to it, right? So they process it, they had some algorithms that says, okay, now it is 5 cm deep in flooding levels. So that's proprietary.
Tell us a little bit about what are your biggest challenges today and where are you going in the future? Francois, you want to go first?
Sure. So the biggest challenge we had and we still have in some cases is around integration. In fact, when our clients understand that they can, improve the customer experience through the service they're giving with their staff, at the beginning they're asking us to just have access to a few data, and then they're like, "Oh, can you access this and that and that?" And that may be challenging for us because it means that we need to make sure that everything is complementing each other, that staff are not overwhelmed with information, and that may be a challenge. So the AI will take the lead even more when they need to select the right insights that they should send to staff to serve people in a better way. So integration is one. This is why we have a connector to access different databases, and we're keeping, improving it. And I would say that that's the main challenge we have. We're not like Charlie's company working with maybe a mix of public and private data. Most of the data we work with is private. It's inside a physical space, understand how people use that space, and how better serve from existing data they have. So we don't claim ownership of that data. We have our own AI engine that can creates great insights for management and staff. But yes, the challenge is around how we keep adding on more data types to still be useful in real time by staff in the property.
Okay. Charlie, challenges and what's
well,
in store
for me, it's always hiring, like constantly hiring. The other issues that we have is that there is limited audience, like for very, very deep data analytics. So we do need to sort of simplify a lot of our products. Our company tends to want to build very innovative, very deep tech. So I need to sort of like also look at things that are a little bit more scalable and a little bit more mass driven, and simplify the AI. I think I mentioned just now, I have the same problem. I like to pick harder problems, and it's about picking the easiest solvable problems using AI to get it to serve a wider audience. So that's what we are doing right now. Yeah.
Great. My final question is $10 million, 10 million US dollars. Okay. 5 years, best total return. Invest in real estate or invest in an AI company? Francois, $10 million, 5 years, total return. AI company. Your company?
My company.
Charlie?
Definitely AI company.
Okay, great. I knew that was going to be the answer. Great. So, Charlie and Francois, thank you very much for the session. Very interesting. Gave us a bunch of very, very good insights. And we will see you again soon.